Sorry for any confusion, everyone. Tech world, that's why we come on early. It still was late anyway, but that's okay. Okay. Brilliant. I'm very glad to have everyone here. Let's start our recording too. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome. And I'm so glad you're here. This is my friend Jeneth Blackert. I'm so glad to interview her today. She's a very spectacular person, full of lots of life and light. And both of us are mothers. We have 3D lives. And we're going to be talking about the beauty of a quiet mind today and how to attain that, which is a beautiful subject, certainly worthwhile for all of us. Having a quiet mind is incredibly important for so many reasons. But let's talk a little bit with Jeneth about her journey to this moment here. And Jeneth, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so glad to be here.
Jeneth, I'd love for you to tell folks a little bit about yourself in your own words, because I can definitely rave about your energy and your prowess as a coach, but I'd love for you to share more about yourself for those of us or the audience who haven't heard of you before.
Yeah, hello from Scotland.
Oh yeah, Scotland, thank you.
Gosh, so my journey started really back in 2005 when I had a massive corporate crash and burn and breakdown. And I just walked out one day. I had been walking up this ladder in corporate for quite some time. And on a Wednesday afternoon, it was end of quarter, and I had not, peed all day. And I was just like running crazy, left, right, and everywhere. And I tell you, it hit a moment in that day that I just was like, all right, you guys, I at least have to go to the bathroom and then I can answer your questions. And I had a team of people that we were getting numbers from. And I had this like little train of people that followed me into the bathroom. No kidding. And as they did, I just lost it, like literally lost it. And, I was peeing midstream and somebody was trying to talk to me about a business question. And I was like, holy shit. So I walked out and didn't talk to anybody because I knew that I was going to react in a way that I would have regretted. And as I walked out, I got into my car and I just crashed my head on the steering wheel. And then I just started flooding with tears. And then moments later, I was flooding with sweat because I live in Texas. And I was in this black car. So it's like everything was oozing out of me. And I thought something like, is this the life that I really want to lead? And all of a sudden I get all this clairvoyant information. And then finally a voice come through that I identified then as God. And it said, walk away. And it was very, very clear. And energetically, I knew exactly what needed to occur. And that, the universe in some way had my back then. So being the resistant type I used to be, I waited and I didn't walk away. And I tried to go back the next day and I tried to apologize and I tried to do all these things. And there was just way too much trying in my world back then. And I realized that I kept saying to myself, I can't walk away. I've got this house, I've got this mortgage, I've got all these things. I can't walk away. And then finally my husband, just came to me and said, like, honey, you're not going to lose your cable TV. I still have a job, kind of thing. It was more heartfelt than that, but it make the story short, and I did get up the courage to walk away. And then after I did, I have this degree in nutrition. I think you might have known that. And so I started to take on these nutrition clients. And that's when I start to realize that, oh my gosh, we've got all these dragons in our head. And so I got excited because I kept sharing through coaching sessions the story about these dragons. And so I wrote this book called 7 Dragons that then just kind of became popular and just brought me a lot of business and wealth and kind of brought on a whole life of its own. And as I wanted to grow more, I started to do an interview series that then became me 1 year interviewing almost 200 people. And we created this massive list. And then in 2011, we made 1.2 million.
Wow.
And I once again crashed. Like,
oh yeah, burnout.
Right. I have. And then so what I've really been working on since that crash is how can I create with this creative flow, this momentum, being my magic and not getting in these states of stress and overwhelm and frustration. So through all these various interviews with the experts, including yourself, I have really come across a method and a methodology to clear the noise in my head entirely. There'd be other meditators that would say that's not the goal. But for me, I knew that there was all this noise that wasn't mine. And it became so important for me to know what is true for me and what is everyone else's. And being the empath that we are, I think it's really important for us to be able to disconnect from all those reference points that are keeping us in a constant state of stress and vigilance and having these noisy minds where we think that those thoughts are ours.
Yeah.
You know, the whole, I can't do this. At the time, I mean, I wouldn't have known that, gosh, so many other people have that kind of self-doubt. So many other people, you know, have these common thoughts and they're just, you know, implants, explants, and a matrices of, you know, of this linear universe that we have. Universe from, you know, this 3D world, and then there's this universe from this 5D world. And when you can create your life playing in the 5D, it is really fun. I mean, it's just like a symphony. It's like being a conductor. I said in a recent interview, I said, I'm going to be the maestra of my world. And it just kind of came out of my mouth. And all of a sudden, I really knew that, you know, it was time for me to totally play with the subtle energies and the symphony and the tunes and the wisples and the whispers. Whispers are one of the things that I use a lot in my work, because we got to clear out this noise so that we can even access the whispers. Like an angel couldn't get a word in edgewise with what I used to be, right? And now I can hear the angels all the time. So
yeah. Wow, what a wonderful story, Jeneth. I mean, very, very powerful. And you've been through a lot of these big waves of intense realizations, and many of us can certainly relate to that. I know the noise in my head was always my traumatized selves running the show. You know, all my little kids, my teenage selves, my traumatized versions of me, still not getting their needs met. And the noise was always so absolutely overwhelming. And I actually have like these 3 specific days where I had very clear events over the past several years. And one of them that was so profound was that day that I actually had a quiet mind for the first time in my whole life. And the value of that, I mean, I celebrated it. I cried all day long because I was so amazed that that could even happen. I really didn't believe that it was possible. And you're right, all those programs, those nasty programs that so many of us have, the self-doubt, the bully in the head, right? There's a lot of different types of noise in the head. Yeah, much more than that, for sure. So in this journey to create a quiet mind, you've had these absolute big shakeups in your life. And this has certainly led to this moment where then you can actually get the guidance you need now. And that's incredible.
Well, yeah, and it's beyond that now. I mean, it's just, I've been so lucky to have spoken with so many experts, including real world neuroscientists that have, proven and shown me how meditation actually changes your brain. And I realized that once I started this practice, which has now been going on just a little over a year, that it's actually more of a natural state for me to have a clear, not noisy mind than it used to be. Like, I used to be the one that was like, oh, no thoughts, I'm blissed, right? And now I know, as soon as they come up that I better, get my bars run, hit meditation, because I can hardly stand it, anymore, because now I've hit a new state of being that really I want to bring to the world, because it is quite the place to live in, because then you just live one moment at a time and you just follow the dots in front of you. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have a plan or a vision or, dreams, right?
Right.
But it's that you have that, and that you have that energy, and you work the resonant alignment with that energy. And then you can just follow the signposts and the dots for universe and creation to help you create that life.
Yeah. And that stillness in the moment, then you get so much more clarity. Then you can see the dots, you can see the signposts,
right?
You know what you're looking for. It's not going to be lost in the trees.
Yeah.
Lost in the noise.
Yeah. And one of the things I've been playing with clients, so we can play with it in the group and see how they react with it or play with it. But one of the things that I say, okay, tell me what your dream is for the next 90 days. And if they can't tell me like that, well, when we know there's a little bit of work happening, right? So y'all that are listening now or later, what do you want to create, to change even in the next 90 days? So it's one of my, and then some people already know because they've worked a vision or something. And then there's other people that will have just kind of ask the guides, what they're working on, what they're creating, and they can get it. It's the people that go blank when I ask that question are the people that I would hope we could reactivate their magic, their calling, their capacities, that momentum inside for real living and joy and pleasure. And I mean, because, when I'm asking for 90 days, it's not like, yes, I would like to get a gardener, right? I'm not asking for tangible things like that. Sometimes I'm just asking for, real being things. Like, yes, I would like more, oneness, or a connection with my children, or deeper intimacy with my husband. Those are the things that excite me when people respond to that question, instead of responding like, yeah, I'd like to grow my list 5,000. I mean, those are good too, but it doesn't, that's not gonna give you real life. So
right. No, yeah. So you're saying that get into your true dreams, where it's not just 3D life stuff. It's emotions, it's new relationships, it's much deeper. Here's a lovely note from Sarah. She says her thing would be to share her gifts, coming into her gifts that she hasn't realized yet.
Yeah.
And helping others. Wow, what a perfect example. That is something that is very magical.
Yeah. Another great question is, what were you born to be? What were you born to express in your life, whether it's like a business thing, right? Or just express in your life. Like, some people's journey is to really express some sort of art or, gardening or love or whatever. Yeah, I just saw there was another one that popped up.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
She says, what bridges that gap? That's a good question. What bridges the gap between what we're here to express? A lot of times people don't remember that they have to keep asking themselves, what do you really want to be when you grow up?
Well, I don't think it changes, right? I think, and it evolves, and just as we grow and we're like, if you think of a tree, especially we have a lot of oaks here in Texas. So I like to think of it like an oak tree because they really grow, they grow down first, kind of gaining their platform. And then they start to grow up and they become richer and broader and more bigger, right?
Capacity and capability and strength.
Yeah, and when we try to look for quick fixes in this 3D reality, and I think it's a lot of it is about routines and practices and patterns, and there are, yes, some magic pills out there that are quantum activations, but I used to have this chronic back pain and had this energetic healer change it in one session, and it's never come back. Wow. In fact, I've never had back pain at all anymore.
Wow.
And he when during the session, he's like, well, you're hiding this capacity that you have dynamically behind you, right? And that was in like 2011 or 2012 too, right? And that was when I knew that I had to courageously step into it. So I think one of the first steps is to acknowledge that you have these gifts, that you have these capacities, that you're born to do this magic.
Yes.
Yeah.
As creator beings, as souls that live in these bodies, we often will forget that, hey, you're the soul in charge. You're the creator being in charge of this life, of this body, not the other way around.
Right.
And really asking ourselves regularly, what is your soul's gifts? What are they, and how have they changed? How have they evolved? How have they advanced?
Right.
And often advancement comes from those big challenges, and then we overcome the challenge. Well, then we've advanced our soul skills, basically. Yeah. It's very key.
And when we get that every single challenge or obstacle or what we call a problem in this world is really the greatest gift we could possibly give ourselves. Because that's the universe going, hey, there's your button. Would you like to change it now, or should we show it to you again in another 2 months?
Yeah, exactly. It's true. So we'll notice the patterns.
Yeah.
So what you're saying to this journey to a quiet mind, first notice and take account of what your magic is. Number one.
Well,
you must do that.
Yes. And with that, and with every one of my, the pattern that kind of, I hate the word downloaded because, we all have access to all this information. But when I asked specifically, if there is a path or a pattern to, creating, this for others, what first came was really acknowledge what is not yours, right? So still an acknowledgement piece. Disconnect from all the lies that you've bought about you. Disconnect from all the lies you've bought about meditation, about quantum activations, about, the fifth dimensional world, like all of the conclusions, decisions, computations that we've made about what it is that we've defined, disconnect and destroy. Because that gives us this space and this place to play in the moment as if it's brand new once again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
So that's the first place. And then within, the system that I've created for this, there, it does go through like 10 core blocks. And it goes from really acknowledging all of you to then really, being able to be your magic. It's, just knowing what you are and being able to ask questions and inquire. It's a big part of my work, is that inquiry within. Is there more questions coming up here?
Yeah, let's take a look here. It says
instead of me. So I do have a background in access consciousness, but it's not all that. Because a big part of the work that I do came from when I was really depressed and started working with brain entrainment and subliminals and for whatever reason, that noise that happened through subliminals, and now I really get it from just white noise, really allowed me to balance the different hemispheres of my brain. That's how I understand it. And so then first I needed to clear the noise to even have access to anything for me.
Yes.
Because I was it was like rabbit ears that I couldn't, in the 50s or 70s even, they had those rabbit ears on TVs, and it was just like this, come on, where's my channel? That was what my brain was like. And it would drive me nuts. I'd go to my husband and be like, and he's like, I don't even know what that means. And then he's like, I have multiple voices in my head, but I just kind of talk and navigate the conversation. And I'm like, I can't even get a clear message in edgewise to any of them.
Yeah.
That was when that was some of what also was going in with corporate, just, being able to, hone this down to one thought. And oh my gosh, I mean, talk about magic. When you can
absolutely
only have one train of thought, and you know that it's yours, and it's always loving and magical, and it's not full of stupidity and conclusions and doubt. I think that when I talk about this, people are like, I don't even know what you're talking about, because unless you've actually had experience of it, you don't.
Right.
Yeah, but I would like to help people have a greater experience. And I think it all starts with acknowledging this is possible, right?
Yeah.
This way of living in a world of oneness and world of subtle energy, where you are the creator, that is possible.
Yeah. Self-affirmations, right? So if we give some people a chance to begin this, it might be you brushing your teeth, looking in the mirror and saying, I believe that I can have a calm and quiet mind. I believe that I can live in a potentiality, in this place of fifth dimensional thinking, of huge potential. That's me. That's my natural state that I'm trying to get back to. And we keep telling ourselves this. We keep telling our bodies this. Our cells want to listen to us. Our brain wants to listen to us. Our heart really does want to listen to us.
It does. And when you can acknowledge all those pieces, and I use this with this weird energy, and we can give a sample of it. I call it awesomeness. And it came from, I was in an ESC session with Dane, which is an energetic synthesis of communion. And then about halfway through the session, it was kind of like came down through my head and all through my body. And it kind of felt like this wave. And it really seemed like I had asked for this capacity like Dane. And I thought that I just had ESC energy at the end. And after I've used this on, hundreds of clients in group sessions, they're like, this is different than ESC. This is like more like it stirs it up. So I've started to call it like an awesomeness vortex. And in my program that we'll share with everyone, this vortex, and we can show them a sample of it, it kind of just takes out all of the stuff that's not you.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I like that.
So that's some of the first pieces of it. So it sort of like takes out the pieces that aren't you, and then it lets you hear your heart so that you can really hear what is you.
How valuable.
Yeah, pretty simple process. So and it's kind of, you know, my magic that has grown over the years, and being able to keep following the dots in the fifth dimensional land.
Yes, absolutely. And just to backtrack slightly, you mentioned that you were using brain entrainment to help you balance your two hemispheres. And there's another method too called gazing or tratreka, which is gazing meditation. And what they showed especially is if you combine it with the Sri Yantra, and you're gazing at the Sri Yantra, or even better, something out in nature. I literally just taught my husband how to do this technique. And we were out in the yard and we did a gazing meditation on a fern. And he was so in love with this technique and immediately could feel the difference and the calm, the presence, the focus, the two hemispheres finally gently meeting and being one and functioning as one. And we both walked away feeling so good. So certainly there's multiple ways via listening, obviously, or watching, and then using gazing to use those as a start point.
Millions, right? There's millions of ways. Because I think just the intention of saying, all right, quiet the head, move to the heart.
Very good. Yeah.
You see, it's like immediately everybody shifts with one single intentional question or action in this
or
case.
A command to the body.
Yeah, and the body's like, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that one. Right?
Good, yeah. Oh, good. I love that. Yes.
Yeah, and I made a very simple program and with just these like 6-minute thingies, like these 6-minute audios, because this doesn't take long.
Right.
It's not about doing a 20-minute meditation morning and afternoon. It's about working the tools and coming into being all of you, and making the choice to say, you know what, I'm going to be my best me today, every day. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm doing this fifth dimensional play all day long, including all night when I sleep and go off on astral trips. It's like, what kind of change have I asked for where I'm going on these astral trips to probably change or encourage myself somewhere else, or something.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, what kind of impact am I having doing those kind of things? So, I mean, this gets like, it can be really simple, and you can live just with a clear mind and stress less and be your best self. And it can go into you doing all this kind of other work galactically. And I think that there's so many empaths that get overwhelmed with the guides and the information and I hear this thought, I hear this. I'm like,
yeah, I'm trying to discern what's true and what's you. Yes.
Right. And when you release this past, and you release, like, even saying, not making your guides significant, right? Because sometimes what they're talking to is just an entity that is like you and me. It just doesn't have a body.
Yes.
Yeah. And sometimes it's demonic, and it's pretending that it's good and telling you, like, those tricksters out there, right?
Oh, been there.
So when you ask and you play with these various different voices in your head, you realize, okay, well, first, are you conscious, right? And you can't just go on what you hear in your head. You have to notice the frequency of it. Does it feel light and expansive?
Yes, absolutely.
Does it feel like bliss, right? So, I think, there's various levels of discernment first of like, all right, so, because some people don't want to get the thoughts out of their head because that's a little scary.
Right. They feel a little bit alone then too. Yeah. I think I always like to point out that as a seer, I can see this stuff usually first. And I depended so heavily on my third eye all these years that I got into loads of trouble because I'd be getting guidance from beings who were total fakers. And they might look really pretty, but doesn't mean that they had good intentions. So how I've learned how to make a discerning decision about my guidance is, yes, I see this, but then I'm going to feel into it. And usually if you feel into it, something that's faking can't hide. They can't hide that. So you can feel it and then check with your gut, gut mind. That's where your intuition is. And if your gut says no, then you send them right out. Immediately.
And feelings are a really good word for 3D, but it's also, Access is really big on what do you know, perceive, receive, and be with this. Kind of is just a little more expansive words than what do I feel. But I do use the word feel bliss because your body does feel, and it does feel from the fifth dimensional entities and energies. So
can you name those again? You said, what do you know?
Know, be, perceive, and receive. So if you're hearing something in your head, right, that's usually how it starts. I don't know, I know that you probably see it, like you'll probably see geometry and sacred geometry for people too. I don't know how far it goes for you, but when, that's, but you also know if you see something that's not, and it doesn't feel light, you also know this is not what we're asking for. This is something that their mind has put into place that's probably a construct.
Exactly. Yeah.
just to make sure we're all on the same page here.
Well, and also just to be clear, it's something very important that I've learned. Just because you see it doesn't mean you know it.
Definitely right.
So I used to
what it means. Like,
right. Exactly. You don't know. I used to believe that when I saw it, I knew it, and that's simply not true. It's actually it's very opposite. Just because you see it doesn't mean you know it.
I've also been careful to not tell my client what I see. I will instead ask them questions to see if what they're perceiving is similar to what I am, energetically noticing, perceiving, receiving, being, knowing, and maybe seeing.
Yeah.
Because
then they can own it on their own and get validated by you saying yes, and that's also what I perceive too.
Right. Yeah. It's and one of the other things I think that is really fun about clearing the noise is it allows all these gifts to open up, and if you work them, they open up so freaking fast. It's like if you are like, yes, I'm clairvoyant, I'm clairaudient, I'm clear everything. I mean, and you will play, it's like, whoa, information overload.
Right.
You can use this clearing the noise tool to like, okay, let me get back to my presence and let me know what is really real here.
Yes, absolutely. I think this is incredibly valuable because so much of what we get information-wise from all different levels can be incredibly confusing for someone to move through.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what was happening with me in 2005 is I just got overloaded with because I didn't even know that I should have access to guides or anything back then. Like I knew it was possible, but I'm like, I'm not intuitive. I'm very real. And then I had to figure out, okay, do I want to be listening to these things? Or, and are they helping me? Are they helping me grow my life? Are they helping me live in this reality? Are they not helping me? How are they helping me? Right? So,
yeah, and the value of stillness, Becky's pointing out too, sometimes we just need all the input to be finished, and being able to have control over your stillness, being able to have a place of stillness where you can just be with source, just you and source, no extra guides, no extra whatever. That's right. Incredibly important too, and certainly leads into deep states of meditation, which can bring in a lot more light physically, mentally, spiritually.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do think that, all of this is a part of source.
Yeah.
I think but yeah, I agree.
Even the crazy stuff, but it's all here to teach us. It's all here to teach us. We're learning from it. It's all part of source. And then, of course, being able to find that part of you deep inside to expand it, the part of you that is just simply source, which is your true essence. And then as that essence unfolds, it's got its own special skills. I always like to say we're all here in this experiment of the universe together, being able to inform the source field of its greatest question, which is, what is love? That's the whole purpose of the experiment, and we can tap into it. So Jeneth, on this journey, as someone's getting to get quieter, they're really acknowledging what's them, what's not. They're trying out some techniques and affirmations that are going to help them to be able to continue on that path. What's the next step from there?
Well, let me just take you through a 5-minute experience with
Thank you.
Because it's systematic. It's got hand positions in it.
Oh, cool.
It's very specific. And there's all these other things we can do too, and there's all these other things we can talk about too. But this is how I've found that it works to clear the brain. And it might help the conversation move on first.
Great.
So this is like 6 or 7 minutes. So just go ahead and everyone to close your eyes. And then exhale out through the mouth audibly. And as you do, take your left hand behind the occipital ridge and the right hand on your forehead. And we'll start there. Disconnecting from all the reference points that you have up into this point of life. Disconnecting from all the reference points that you have. Disconnecting from all the reference points, connection points that you have. Disconnecting from thought, feeling, emotion. Disconnecting from thought, feeling, and emotion. Opening the door to expand out beyond this body, yet still be totally in this body. And then drop your hands down to your collarbone or your heart, inviting your heart to speak, inviting your heart to speak, inviting your heart to speak. Whew. Taking a couple breaths in. Opening up this portal of light from the crown of your head. Allowing the light to come down, 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 like warm white steam. All the way down through your heart, through your body, down through your legs and your feet, down through the center of the earth. Warming up the body with this light. Okay, now we start this energy that I call awesomeness. So you take the wrists and you make little circles together. Starting up awesomeness, noticing the tingling sensations that start right at your wrists. Pulling that up and in through your body, now opening the door for a white vortex of that steam coming and vortexing out all that is not yours right now. Vortexing out all that is not yours now. Vortexing out all that is not yours now. Vortexing out all that is not yours now. Vortexing. And taking another breath. Amplifying that white steam and that vortex. Releasing all that's not yours. What is it that you haven't acknowledged about you? That if you now acknowledged it about you, you would have it? What is it that you haven't acknowledged about you? That if you would now acknowledge it, you would have it? Would you be willing to acknowledge that now? Take a breath, bring that in. What magic wants to be brought forth in your world? What magic wants to be brought forth in your world? Would you be willing to know, be, and receive that now? And take a breath. What else is ready for you to know, be, receive, and perceive? What else is ready for you to know, be, receive, and perceive? Would you be willing to acknowledge that now? Would you be willing to own it and be it? Now slowing down that vortex until it becomes still. All the judgments that you have about you doing this, would you destroy and uncreate? And once it's still, go ahead and start wiggling your fingers and toes, yet keeping that connection with the earth. Start waking up, energizing the arm. And then slowly opening your eyes. And that's, I'm echoing back a little bit. I hope you guys aren't hearing that as much as I am. So
You sound good to me. And thank you for that. I feel much better.
we should have done that at the beginning, right? So there's 30 audios in the, just so you guys know, I mean, you want to look at the various steps. I want to make sure you guys had the link if that's okay. But
Please.
it's like, it's 30 audios where there's white noise and a meditation like that. And then a meditation without the noise and a meditation with the noise. And then there's other bonuses for like these longer sleep audios in there. And it's just to keep people in this constant practice of, clearing out, disconnecting from the crap that isn't them, activating this vortex. Hopefully there'll be more people that are doing this soon. and really, yeah.
I especially I love how simple it is. And I also especially like the part where you're saying, anything that's not me. And that's a very specific thing to say. Sometimes we'll get really bogged down by naming off all the stuff that we're trying to get rid of. And this is really nailing it down to something energetically not you. Judgments aren't you. Egoic structure's not you. Negative programs aren't you. All those traumatized versions of you that are locked in your subconscious, those aren't you in the moment either.
Yeah. Well, it's even like, one of my clients kept saying, she's like, I keep getting, this isn't working, this isn't working, this isn't working. And I'm like, is it yours?
Yeah. What a program.
I know. I was like, gosh, thank goodness I don't have that one.
It's a tough one. I think many of us, when we're struggling, we'll have that, or we'll have this is dumb.
Or I can't. Yeah.
I can't. I think when you said any judgments that I might be having about doing this, there was actually just this very subtle little judgment about it.
That I heard, and I'm like, all right. Well, I knew it wasn't mine too, right?
Yeah, that's not mine, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was just somewhere out there. And I was like, all right, well, we'll clear that. There was a couple others that I could have cleared. And I was like, well, I'm new to this group. Let's just keep it simple.
Yeah. And so being really clear about what we really want in that moment. Like for me, I'll just use myself as an example. It was, you asked, what was the question? It was, what is this that you really want, that if you welcomed it right now, you'd have it?
Yeah.
I love that, because this morning's been a little bit stressful. So, just a great example, 3D life, right? A little bit stressful, like literally a few minutes before we got on, my daughter climbed up on my bed and handed me a piece of poopy toilet paper.
No.
Right? She's 2. And she's learning how to potty train, and I'm laying in my bed meditating, and she comes up with this piece of poopy toilet paper, and it's like, that's
all you can do is reward her for.
Good job, honey. Drew, my husband, please come fix this problem. But a little bit stressed, and so I welcomed in the energy of being able to be in pure, focused, and loving confidence of myself today. And as I welcomed it, so that I could have it, I could feel that difference. And then the stress and the noise in my head, the stress noise, what is that for me? Well, like, for example, all the stuff I have to do today, especially as women, right? We list this off constantly.
I don't have any of them yet. I don't. I have a list, but then I just do one thing at a time. There will occasionally come in just this little inkling of frustration still that gnaws at me, but it's not like, I used to have that kind of noise too. And I was like, well, this is mine. This is my list. But I also realized I only do one thing at a time. And that was my shift and my transition from that.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. because I think that's probably one of the last big things that'll run in my head too often. And it's not that I don't want to know my list.
It's just you just don't need it in your head.
Well, I don't need it in my head, and I don't need the stress.
Yeah.
You know, one moment at a time, one thing at a time, and being in the moment to treasure it. Well, that's where all the power is. You can't do anything in the past or future. You can only do one thing at a time in the moment, and with a still mind, you can do it better. You can do it with that calm, clear confidence, for example, that I've been welcoming in just now.
Right.
Good. That's a beautiful shift. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you know, I wanted to answer just some of the questions that are here online.
Yes.
Or at least respond to some. Because Janine asked a question. She's like, how can I feel happy about the creation when the God in charge of this world has set me up as a victim of evil? And my answer, and I'll let you, Elizabeth, answer this as well, but is you know, this is your opportunity and your choice to ask, you know, were you a creator of change? And because of the act that happened that made you think that you were a victim, was that actually you trying to change somebody else? And if you'd acknowledge that gift, it would change how you even see any of this now. And Elizabeth, I'll let you, you know.
It's a very powerful question because so many of us have had terrible things happen in our lives, right?
Yeah, agree.
And this universe does have polarities. It does have dualities. It's not something that we're trying to run away from. And rather, we might look at dualities and polarities like victim tyrant is a very clear polarity in this case that's being expressed. When we're in a position of victimhood, what we'll often do is allow the gap to be filled by a person, place, or situation beyond us to fill in the gap of tyrant. Now here's the thing. We don't leave a vacuum. So the universe is always balancing everything out. There's always going to be dark, dense, or what we might call evil, and there's always going to be good, formless, and what we might call, light. And there's everything in between. This whole universe creates a balance between both because it's trying to answer a specific question. What is love? Well, in the discovery of what is love, you'll also find what is not love. And that's very important. You need to know that to define it for yourself. Now you know what victimhood looks like. What does tyranthood look like? Can you go into the center of that hamster wheel, yes, that still point, right? In between the two, and welcome both entirely as one thing to step off. And that stepping off of that polarity is going to be different for everyone. So in that case, for yourself, ask yourself, what's the middle ground between the two? What's the middle ground where I'm no longer disempowered, where my power isn't being taken away or given away to anyone else? What's that energy feel like? Step into that and welcome that fully into the self. And so I want to give a personal example because I too had been in situations over and over again where I was the victim and I was welcoming the tyrant in my life to play that role. And I advanced more because of those challenges. I advanced more. We like to say, well, God's a jerk because he lets all these evil people run around and get away with stuff. But that's not what we're talking about. Source itself, in a very scientific terminology too, includes all of these things in order to be able to understand those two big, huge questions at all times. You can find it at the source of everything. So this is a complex piece. We could do an entire interview on this alone.
Well,
but
I mean, and so one of the things that, I think that we could do a whole interview on it, and that's not really what this interview is about, but the piece of it that it is about is give up the construct. Stop even identifying that you were ever a victim, and acknowledge that you actually probably had some awareness and you changed somebody's life because of what they did to you. And you may change a lot of other people's lives by sharing the story and how you let go of it.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like identity. Yeah, we create these identities and they're very heavy, aren't they? They're messy, they're heavy, they define us.
And there are lies. I mean, nobody is like stuck, it's like, if I were to say I am ADD, right? Even if I was tested and I was ADHD or whatever they call it these days, if I was tested and it was identified that I was that, I would have the capacity to change my brain, the plasticity of my brain, to no longer have that way if I would really ask and really choose it. I think everything is changeable.
Well, that's the nature of the universe, thank God.
And I just I feel like that's an evolution that's going to happen as we change into the new earth. So, one of the other ones I want to address was from Annette, and she I think that it's funny, like she's stepping up in this role of becoming a yoga teacher, and she has this fear of teaching, right? And yes, you can do this, but I think it's important for us to know that fear, when you're on the brink of something different and something new, even if you're just going, out of town, sometimes this little fear or this nervousness comes up, and it's often misidentified as it's called fear, but it's also like all these beautiful, subtle, new energies. And if you play and stop naming it fear and identifying as fear, but play with the subtle energies of anxiousness, excitement, juiciness, nervousness, and really see what those energies are like in your body, you will be able to even bring it to your class, and they'll be able to just tell them, I'm a little bit nervous, excited, champagne bubbly. And I want you guys to just be with me and also play, in the subtle energies when you start something new. And I wonder what kind of experience you can bring to that class. And I think, across the board, Elizabeth, as an entrepreneur and starting her own business, there's a ton of that. Whenever we do a new path, it's always that, uncomfortable, like nervous nature. One of the things that I was working on when I started my business was I was terrified to show up in front of a camera. I would be like, I'd have stage fright kind of thing. And once you can separate like stage fright or fear and put it into like this range of these beautiful subtle energies, and then confidence is just the outward look of it, of what you're looking for. But really what you want to go in with it is be the fear, because that's what's coming up now. Be it, have it, but don't let it stop you.
I love that. I think that's really key. So this is a masterful way for us to begin to navigate energy differently. And so we can zoom into an energy and say, well, what are the subtle descriptions that might identify the range here that I am playing with? Because we'll often be taught that certain feelings in the body equate to only one emotion, and that's just simply not true.
Yeah.
Well, you'll have
so
fear in the gut,
yeah.
but that might be your intuition kicking in, or you'll have a sense of like that champagne bubble feeling coming from the gut up through the heart, and that might be a whole different thing altogether. That's mastery of energy, is when you're being able to notice it, the subtleties, and paying attention to that.
Right. Absolutely.
Oh, that's very beautiful. So we have someone asked, Sarah's wanting to share something that helped her forgive someone who was supposed to be protecting her. So a situation where she felt violated by a relationship. And so I'm sure all of us can relate.
I can facilitate it, and it'd be nice if I could get the feedback. But the first question I would ask is, in truth, was I truly violated, or did I just conclude that I was violated? We'll go much further than that, but just, and you can respond as I go through these if you'd like. And all that is where you have decided that you were violated and it's ruined something that's a part of you. Everything that is, would you destroy and then create? And start there. So let me read what she wrote next. It was perspective change for me that was being, okay. I learned, yeah. Yeah, I mean, sometimes what we perceive is not really their intention, and I think that, one of the things that helps gratefully is to do the judgment, what we call the judgment process in access consciousness. And it simply goes, you take the person that you feel violated with, and you ask and you go, so what's my judgment of bad person? Just call him bad person right now. And all that is, would you destroy and uncreate? And then you come back. So what is their judgment of me? All that is, would you destroy and uncreate? And then now the next question is this tricky question. There's two others that I'm going to give you that are ones of a little tricky to take in. But I'll share with you why we ask it. So then the next question is, okay, so what's my judgment of them? What's their judgment of me? What do I respect about them? What do they respect about me? And then you get just the awareness of it. And then you ask, what do I judge about having sex with them? And sometimes you get this, ooh, gross, creepy, whoever it is. But that's kind of your ability to receive, and it's a trigger. So that's why we ask it. So what's your ability to, what's your judgment of having sex with them? All that is, would you destroy and uncreate? And what's their judgment of having sex with you? You're like, woohoo, or something, or you're still creeped out, and all that is, would you destroy and uncreate? And run it, 10, 15 times. And you'll get to the point where you are like, I see they've got issues too, right? And I'm so sorry that they, have that. And then you can often drop wherever you felt violated by them. So it's one way to get yourself out of it.
So we're creating then a compassionate situation by using that trigger piece too, to lead us to look at the density or the structures that keep us separated from that person, place, or thing. And it's not necessarily that you're actually going to go have sex with them or anything. It's actually a very intimate sort of subconscious piece where you're triggering your own self in order to see where there's structure in the way.
Right.
And then you're not necessarily going to merge with them, but you're going to be in a position where all that structure's out of the way so that you can see them clearly. And that's an interesting trick. That's really fascinating.
Very cool. A lot is so simple, but so cool. So what we're, just Susan asked to clarify what we're destroying and uncreating, we're all the constructs, the implants, you said structures, yeah, all the structures that are in place that keep this in place. And it may have been brought in place when we were like 5 years old, like, you know, and it could have been just an energy that we perceived from a parent that, you know, there's so many things that are in our systems that have been in for, you know, billions, trillions of years. And there are others that are just like right next door that was created when we were children. So,
yeah.
Yeah, you know, and the thing is, just keep doing it until you get free, you know, destroy.
Oh, yeah. Consistency. I mean, I don't think we can underline that enough.
Right.
Consistency. And at first, if it's challenging for you, just carve out a little time at the end of the day to start doing this stuff, and then start to gently bring it in more often till you end up having this as a constant mindset. You're going to retrain your brain. You're going to retrain your body. It'll take time. Be gentle. Don't beat yourself up. Let's say you completely miss an entire day. No big deal.
Well, and you're doing it just by being on these calls.
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
Yeah. I mean, if you're on this call, you're like seeking change, and it's happening, right? In each moment. So.
Yeah, exactly. I think consistency, being able to recognize when we beat ourselves up for stuff, when we think it's not good enough, but then yet here you are, you've shown up, you're watching this, you're listening, you're looking, acknowledging that that's your true self there, that what is not you is the beating up part. And then you can do the same technique. You're welcoming that piece to shift. Here's an interesting question. Can you clarify what you're saying about destroying and creating?
I was just stressing. Yeah, it's all the little squares. The next person just answered it. Yeah, because it's all the constructs, the implants, the explants, the you know, anything that's not yours that you're living by, even.
Yes, and polarities too, how polarities might have shown up in your life to teach you something big. Well, that's good, but we're always looking for the next polarity to unravel. And it never really stops. And so we need to acknowledge too that you don't stop doing this work. You don't stop playing. This is a lifestyle, it's a mindset shift. And so, you know, when you're creating something, you're taking your own essence and you're moving it into the world, you're manifesting it into the dimensions of material, of the material. You know, when you're destroying something, you're unraveling it so that it gets back to the source field. You know, nothing.
Not destroying energy, like energy doesn't destroy, it just transmutes, it transfers, it just changes. So you're just changing the construct. Instead of it being like things stuck together and all balled up, you're just like releasing the ball. I think that's, you know, they in Access, they used to they do all these numbers now, but they used to just go 1, 2, 3, and it'd be like, yes. You know, and you know, occasionally that's the best way to get at it, you know. All the implants and explants that I have, creating that victimhood, that fear, whatever, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, being gone with it. And so then we get to use Source's amazing power to recycle energy. One of the great gifts of the universe. It's, to me, actually, it's proof that the universe loves us, because guess what? Nothing's ever wasted. Not even the worst, nasty, most horrible things. All of that ends up.
That's a judgment.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, it's still a judgment at the end of the day. You know, the worst nasty thing, that is the judgment.
Right. And then we release that.
Yeah.
We release even that to be recycled until there's just purity. There's just pure you left. And that's what the quiet magic mind looks like.
Yeah, that's how it seems to me.
Just the pure you.
Yeah, yeah. Just, you know, and I've got the website Real Raw You, right? Because it's because I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just be vulnerable and stop hiding the bullshit that I'm trying to hide. You know, I don't know, you know, and then as it started to release and I started to share the stories and things like that, it was like, wow, I don't really have anything to hide, you know, and people can ask me anything and I'll like, yeah, no, I'll share it. It might make you uncomfortable, but I'll share it.
That's why I like you, Jeneth. You're very vulnerable and authentic. And I like being vulnerable too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you know, it's like, you know, I will openly share, you know, relationship stuff and, you know, all sex and everything. And you know what? It makes some people uncomfortable, but it changes some people too. It changes their sex lives, or it changes how they look at it, or they're like, wow, you really aren't hiding anything, are you? I'm like, no, I might hide the occasional vaping that I do or something like that. But see, I'm starting to bring it back to life.
Yeah, this is very clear, and that honesty and openness is really highly appreciated by our guests here. I think that's very key. I think that's, you know, that's the paradigm of us being authentic teachers, in each of us being authentic teachers. What is your pure you that you're here to bring to the table? And that pureness of you is what we want to hear.
Yeah.
Actually, every teacher I've ever valued the most was able to just be themselves in a vulnerable, real way. There was no power over dynamic with them. Yeah, and then I could actually begin to appreciate my own pure me too, because I watched someone actually do it in front of me, and I valued what I received from that realness.
The best question to ask for that is, what am I trying to prove? Right? Because if you're trying, and the funny thing is, I found this, like, it's like these layers, because say I'm trying to prove, I'm trying to think of something that I'm trying to prove. You know, say I'm trying to prove that I'm better than you or something like that.
Sure.
All right. Okay. So then, and maybe this isn't the best example, but there's that, right?
Competition. We know competition. Prove, sure.
Right? The competition I'm trying to prove. And then underneath it is, I doubt that I am as good as you. And that's why I'm trying to overcome that doubt and prove it. And then there's the core down here. The truth is, I might actually just be different than you. And if I just acknowledge that, then I could see so much more magic than trying to even compare myself to anyone in this entire reality.
Yeah. And that allows for real collaboration.
Yeah. It also allows for you to really like yourself too.
Yay!
Right? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because, you know, if you're always trying to prove, you always think that you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I played with that question for like 3 full months, like all day long. What am I trying to prove about this? What am I trying to prove about that? And then the question became, am I trying to prove something here? You know, am I trying, defense is another one. What am I trying to defend about me? What am I trying to defend about my point of view? What am I trying to defend about my position? So it'd be like, what am I defending for or against? And what am I trying to prove? And between those two, you'll get to a whole lot of stuff.
Oh boy, that's some good stuff. See, these are great questions because they make you dig. Yeah. They make you dig. They make you dig into all those programs, or what you like to say, implants and explants. They make you dig into them by asking yourself that question really consistently.
Yeah.
Another question I'll ask myself too is, what am I being distracted by right now? And what am I separating myself from?
I like that. Well,
Those two.
and if you find something, ask yourself, what's the value of being separated here? Right? Because because it's become a pattern or habit. So what do you love about it? Is there something you love about it? Is it a way to disconnect from something that you claimed as boring? And everywhere where you've claimed anything as boring in this life, this 3D world or something like that, right? So it's like there's like shit down the rabbit hole. And you know what I love about it is so simple. Like, and with my work, I've tried to make things incredibly simple, like dumb, simple, and so dumb, simple that it's profound.
Agreed. Me too. I love that. I think it's key to consistency.
Right.
I'd like to point out too, with polarities too, and maybe we'll pull out this victim tyrant one too. We can ask ourselves, where have I desired to maintain the identity of victimhood? Where have I feared it? Where have I desired to be or have a tyrant in my life? Where have I feared it? And when we can ask ourselves those, we break down all of the, we can break down all the energetics of it. And then we can see the whole thing as a full spectrum.
You can just ask the question and destroy and uncreate.
Yep. Blam. Exactly. Consistently.
And as soon as there's true agreement, it's gone.
Right.
Yeah. It's the getting somebody to really, go, yes, no, I'm not a victim.
Yeah. And then you're done. Yes, you're done with it.
Yes, all my fear is excitement. Boom, it becomes excitement. And when you don't have any noisy cycles of doubt, then it's a lot easier to just say yes. Because you don't have to go through what in Access Consciousness they call that distractor implants. You don't have to go through any distractor implants to get to what you actually know. You just know, I know.
Yeah, and then your body gets used to it, right? Because the body's like this beautiful, trainable, well, it is very much an animal.
Yeah, you don't have to go through the body doesn't have to be taxed by it either.
No, not at all.
You can ask for your body not to be taxed by it.
Yes.
Right.
I think the key too is that the simplicity of asking and formulating quality questions to really work with is what we've done, what you've done, and what you're sharing with us. And that asking, if we want something done, to ask it. You're the commander of this body and experience. You are the soul in charge. And repositioning yourself as the soul in full-blown witnesshood, in full-blown true essence, and then moving from that vantage point is a giant mindset shift that you can ask for every day and go from there.
Well, and even if you have like sometimes there are things that hang inside of you, like a previous occupant if you're a walk-in, and if you really claim your soul, that other occupant will go away. You really claim all of you, your energy, what you be, that those other things, those other things, little entities, demons, they will run because they like to have some control.
Yeah. I actually have a very vivid experience of that, where I had a entity who wanted to possess me, which terrified the bejesus out of me. And this thing was in my field, and I called my friend, and I'm like, what do I do? Like, I won't go away. All my usual tricks, it's not working. And she started laughing, and she's like, Elizabeth, you're this incredibly powerful being of light. Blow up your field so big and fill it up so full of light that it doesn't have a chance to even come close to you. And it was like her kind of laughing at me, like, how did you forget who you really are? She was reminding me, she was being my mirror, and calling me out. And I was like, you're right. So I filled up my field with light. I blew it up as far as I could see. And I just said, you can watch me all you want. You'll never get close to me, because this is how full and big I really am. This is my true self. And I've maintained that now for almost a year and a half, and I have had no interference, because I created that. I required it as part of my being here.
Well, at one time I felt like I was clearing entities. And I'm like, I am a no entity zone. And it was like,
yeah.
And actually that should probably be a part of the noise program, because I think that was the cycle when I started to realize, oh, okay, this is me. And that other stuff was not me. And I got to really get clear on me and not that. Yeah. So yeah, but that was a part of that. And it was funny, because after I did that, I felt like I heard like this resounding boom.
Yeah, me too. I felt it too.
Like that happens, don't you?
Yeah, the big, huge boom of a soul really recognizing their true self. That is supernova level stuff there.
Definitely. Most definitely.
Brilliant. Oh, that's so good. It's so good. So we're just about out of our time here, and I know we started a little late, so we'll still be on for about 5-10 more minutes at the most. What else would you like to share? And certainly, where can people go look at working with you? Because I really love your energy. I know people will want to play with you too in this. And share a little bit about where people can work with you right now.
Yeah. So my book, Seven Dragons, you can get it on here. I'll just add some links in the chat.
Thank you.
Actually, I have a big collective link, but that whole book, and at the beginning of that book, it talks about how I was I got a TMer to call me. And they were like, I saw your number in my meditation. And I was like, weird. And that was one of the first things that had been created in my life that really got me to go, wow, there's something else that I don't know about this universe and this fifth dimensional world, and
yes.
And that was a really, really cool, thingamajig that happened to me.
Galactic rabbit hole.
Yeah. And it was probably one of the things that started me really looking at, hey, this is real. This energy stuff I speak of is real. So here's the link to a bunch of my delicious things that I post on LinkedIn.
Thank you.
And then what my Clear the Brain course, it's just $97 and it's brand new. So there's the link.
By the way, it's really beautiful. Those of you, I encourage you to go to that site. It's realrawyou.com/magic. The energy of that particular page is beautiful. It's impeccable. Go revel in it a little bit. It's been mystically created, you can tell. Go there and just hang out there for a minute and love on the light.
Thank you for that. I've also written a novel. If you're into chick lit kind of novels, it's called Falling in Stilettos, and it's about a 20-something, maybe 30-something girl who has this fall. And when she falls and slips in stilettos, she wakes up and her life is totally different.
Wow.
And she has to like navigate her life from each moment and from the question. So it's like all my work put together in like this like cute little novel.
Brilliant.
Yeah. I adore that book. That's my latest book. So Falling in Stilettos, if you like to read and you're into chick lit, my dragon book, everything that I do is really simple. I also have a simple marketing book. So, it's one thing at a time.
Dig in, everybody, dig in. She's got so much to offer you. Enjoy it, and certainly you'll be able to experience the masterful light that she's woven into all the things she's done, and that immediately can have an effect on you. Revel in it, play with it.
Yeah, it's funny, when I wrote that second book, one of my assistants, when she started just proofreading it, she's like, oh my gosh, I think the fifth dimensional energy is in here. And I was like, well, if it's not, before it's published, I'm going to add it. So
yeah, absolutely.
I've added it, and I tried to go back in the timeline and add it to all my books. So
yes,
how it shows up.
Mm-hmm. All of which is possible. And certainly having those things in hand can give you quite a lot of energy. And then being able to have them around. I have a little bookshelf next to my desk here where I keep books of power next to me, because they literally emanate energy that, well, since I'm a seer, I can see it. I'm lucky. But
yeah, right. Well, I wouldn't call myself a seer, but I can perceive people who just put their heart and their soul in their work. I mean, there's more going on.
Yeah.
That they don't even know, probably. But we can,
and we're all psychic. Part of what's beautiful about this quiet mind discussion is that it can help bring online all your clairs, all of your abilities to feel. So like for me, seeing's one thing, but I couldn't feel energy as well all these years. So then me asking, well, I want to feel now. I want to see, feel, and know.
Yeah.
I want the body experience. I don't want any blocks from the full 100% online experience. And being able to welcome that through having a clear, calm, confident, and quiet mind, well, that's where all the magic gets started, is that place. It's like the quiet mind it's the fresh raised bed ready for planting.
Yes.
That's really what it is.
Yeah. And it's a great place to live from.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for sharing with us. I love you. You're awesome.
Thank you.
We love you so much, and thank you for joining us, friends, on this New Earth conversation with Jeneth. And you certainly can find many other interviews I've done with a lot of fabulous, amazing people, most of which are on New Earth Conversations under the YouTube Seer and Scientist. Elizabeth Wood, Seer and Scientist. You can find the playlist, New Earth Conversations. This will be there too for you to play with later and to share if you like. And I hope that you will go join Jeneth with her program if you like, and especially getting to know her through her books and other interviews she's done. She has a great series herself, which I love being part of. And that's
one every week.
Yes, every week. And so very prolific. She's out there. Enjoy what she's offering. Her light is true and pure. Thank you, Jeneth. You're awesome. Bless you and namaste. Bye-bye, friends. Thanks for joining us.